Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock, and we're here again today to do another COPEC Daily Financial Wellness Webcast. As all other days, we have a little disclosure for you here to take a look at. If you didn't have enough time to review that, you can see that at the copeceducation.org website as well, at the bottom under disclosure. And if you do have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Today, we're going to have Russ Golowin again join us. He's a regular with the Daily Show, and today we're going to talk about qualified income trusts. And so, couple things. First of all, what is COPEC? It's a nonprofit 501c3 organization that we bring to the community all different types of education that you can either attend on your own or bring to your organization employees and associates. The COPEC Financial Wellness Initiative, basically we've been really working hard to bring all things financial wellness to the community. And so we're excited about these programs. And this is about education and resources and guidance as much as possible without any cost or marketing, pressure. So we will be doing this in a number of different ways, and I'll go over that in a second here. For technology and the programming, obviously, we may have an error from time to time. So if that does happen, just be patient. We'll do our best to get back online. And questions. So this is meant to be an open discussion. So Russ and I will have a dialogue. Feel free to ask questions or send in through either the Q&A or through the chat. And we're happy to help out any way we can as far as that dialogue. Holidays, we will be closed on holidays. So next Monday with Labor Day, we will be shut down for that. And then, like I said, share this with others. This is open to everybody, and we'd love to have you. As far as the programming, we have the Daily Show, which is what we have today. Those orange boxes, when you're on the website, those really go out 3 to 6 months of topics that we'll discuss. So take a look at those and block out the days that you'd really like to see these programs. This is an example of that calendar for you to review. And then the retirement decisions in the middle, and again, this is the portal on the website. The middle one is for retirement decisions. We have some programs coming up on the 17th. Because of COVID, we're going to have those through web-based, but those typically are in person at local libraries, the Fawcett Center, and things like that. But we do want registration for this again, so we can have that properly set up ahead of time. Then on the right, we have the Financial Wellness Fridays. Every Friday at 11 o'clock, we'll have a lecture series. So similar to the Daily Show, check those out. There won't be as much interaction or any interaction, but you can listen into a lot of great topics, deep dives that go a little bit deeper than what we would be able to do in a program like today. If you are, again, part of an organization, company, and you would like to offer this to your employees or associates, we can actually do custom programs for you or actual unique ones specific for your audience. They can also attend any of these other open platforms as well. But if you want us to do one for your organization, just send us a note through this link and we'll set that up. And then lastly, if you have any personal questions or concerns, we're happy to help. Any of our experts are happy to help. You can either reach out to them directly or us, the host, directly. We would be available to direct you and guide you any way you need. If you'd like to set up a 15-minute consultation or discussion, you can actually do that online right through the Calendly website. And so go ahead and set that up, and we'll help you out any way we can. So without much further ado, today our topic is going to be, again, qualified trust income. And Russ Golowin will be our expert. And we'll have Russ join us there. There you are, Russ. And so, you know, I know, Russ, you did a program earlier today, and every Friday we have you as our guest, and so we really appreciate the chance to have you. What are we going to be talking about today regarding the qualified trust income, or the qualified income trust?
Well, yeah, qualified income trust is something that is new in Ohio. It's about 4 years ago, the law was changed, and it made it necessary for anybody that's applying for long-term care aid, like passport, assisted living waiver, or nursing home Medicaid. They actually must create a qualified if their gross income is more than $2,349. That's the 2020 amount. This doesn't affect everybody in the public, but it can sneak up on people that are applying for Medicaid and they get their application denied and they don't know why.
Well,
so this is something that's very necessary anytime someone's applying.
Well, can you go a little deeper as far as in, which types of situations might a qualified income trust be needed?
Right. So what happens is for Medicaid, let's assume there's this single person has spent down their money and they have under $2,000 left. They're in the nursing home and they say, well, I don't have any more money to pay, so I need to apply for Medicaid. They might either have an attorney help them with that application, then a family member help them with it. But in any case, the application's filed, they give their bank statements, they give proof of their pension, Social Security amounts. Medicaid looks at all of it, and they might say, well, you know what, Russ, your assets are below 2,000, so you meet all the asset tests, and everything else looks good, except I'm sorry, but you're ineligible for Medicaid, and we can't pay for the $9,000 that you just paid here in August because it turns out your income was too high. You had $2,400 in income, but you're only allowed to have $2,349. And since you didn't have this qualified income trust, you're in $9,000 for your August nursing home stay. We'd like to avoid that problem. So that's what the trust that is necessary in that case.
So let's go a little deeper, I guess. So what is a qualified income trust exactly?
Well, a trust is actually just a bunch of paper, right? Trusts have this kind of aura about them and that they're very mysterious. And I get it because I didn't really understand what a trust was when I started learning about it. But it's just pieces of paper with a set of instructions written on them by the person that's creating it and names a trustee and a beneficiary. So really, a trust is a document that is signed by a grantor. That's the person that's creating it. I'm naming a beneficiary, a person that can use the money that's in the trust. And I'm also naming a trustee. That's the person that's in control of what assets are owned by the trust. So really, for a qualified income trust, it's going to be created by the person that's applying for Medicaid, and it's going to name a beneficiary, which is also going to be the person that's applying for Medicaid. And the trustee, most of the time, would be maybe a spouse or a child or just another loved one or trusted family friend. So answers your question, but a trust is the document that we have to create and show the county jobs and family services that we set it up.
And so what you just described there is a qualified income trust as opposed to a generic trust?
Yeah, that's important to note. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're not just talking about any old type of revocable trust. Revocable trusts are really popular to organize assets, to avoid probate, get things organized. They're very powerful estate planning tools. Uh, in many cases, they're very helpful for people, but that's just totally different from what we're talking about right now. A is sometimes it's actually called a Miller trust in other states, um, but it has to follow several other rules in order to help fix this income problem. And so some of those rules are, number one, it has to be irrevocable, which means once it's set up, it can't be changed, it can't be blown up, it has to remain in place. You can't revoke it. That's why it's called irrevocable. Then another requirement is it actually has to say that if I'm the person that set it up, any money left in it goes to the state of Ohio to the extent that for my benefits. So if I'm in a nursing home for a year and I'm on Medicaid and Medicaid paid, I don't know, $70,000 for me, when I die, any money left in this qualified income trust has to go to the state to repay them. With this type of trust, there's never going to be very much money in it, because as I'll describe in a minute, it's just a money in, money out type of setup. But if your trust does not specifically mention those requirements of being irrevocable, having the state as the remainder beneficiary, and it only being able to receive my income, then it's going to fail and you're going to be denied for Medicaid. So those are a few of the requirements that the trust document must say for it to qualify as a qualified income trust.
And again, to kind of get elementary on that, so if you received a Social Security payment of $2,800, that money is going into, they're going to pay it directly into the trust?
Yeah, what happens is it's actually kind of silly. It sounds ridiculous how it actually works in practice. But what happens is your income, or let's use me as an example. If I'm the one applying for Medicaid, my monthly income, like my pension, my Social Security, is going to continue to come into my personal bank account. So that's never going to change. It's going to come into my bank account. But then I have to create this legal document called the trust. Once I create this trust, I'm going to be able to open up a new bank account in the name of the qualified income trust, which is often referred to just as a QIT. So I take the documents to the bank, I open up a new account that's title of my trustee, okay? And then what happens every month now, as long as I'm on Medicaid, is I'm going to make a transfer of the amount of income that brought me over 23.9. So if my income, Jay, like you said, is 2,800, I need to transfer at least $450 from my personal checking account to this new qualified income trust account. And that is what the state says allows me to be considered as only having 2348 or 2349 of monthly income. So to make it easier, let's say I had monthly income of 3,000. I need to get to below 2349, and I just know if I transfer dollars from my checking to the QIT account, that'll reduce my income from 3,000 to 2,000, and I know the requirement. My income is magically reduced to only 2,000 a month because I transferred 1,000 to the T. Okay. Again, I realize this sounds very silly, but it's something that's required since
It's kind of like
August of 2018.
it's kind of like you're disclaiming that income. Does that sound like a good way to say it? You're saying, I legally don't want this income, and by pushing it, even though it ran through your name, you're kind of disclaiming it, therefore you're validating it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. The funny thing is, you're still using that income because after it goes into the, you're just going to make a payment out of the QIT to the facility or to the nursing home. So the same amount of income comes and the same amount is paid to the nursing home. It's just you have to run it through this QIT in order to be eligible. So, I tell people all the time when I'm discussing this that what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to believe, right? Because it sounds ridiculous, but that's the way it works. Money comes into your account, you have to move it into the QIT account, and then you pay it to the facility. That's how you have to do it if your gross income is over 2349. And I want to make that point before I forget. It's gross income, not net income. So if you add up the amounts that are actually deposited into your checking account, you take, because that total might only be 2,200. But then when you add in the deduction for Medicare or any other deductions that are coming out of your pension or your Social Security, if that full gross amount is over 2349, you're in trouble. So make sure you remember it's gross money, not the amount of money that necessarily goes into your checking account.
Just to clarify, is this for couples or singles, or how is that relevant?
Just whether I'm married or whether I'm single, if my income is over 2349 income and I'm applying for Medicaid, I need this QIT. So it doesn't necessarily matter whether you're single or married. It's just if you are applying for Medicaid, the person that's applying needs a QIT if their gross income is over 2349.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this does not require this 5-year look back or any of those types of gifting, correct?
That's right. This is totally different from talking about transferring asset, because we're only talking about monthly income. And remember, a minute ago, I just briefly mentioned only income can be transferred to this trust. So this is not like the type of irrevocable trust where you would transfer money 5 years and then that money is protected. This is solely when we're down to the wire, we're actually filing our Medicaid application. Our income, just our monthly income, is reduced by running it through this trust. So that's a very good question, Jay.
So just to simplify this again, to make sure, for somebody that they would like to qualify for Medicaid support for long-term care, correct?
Yeah.
They have to satisfy an asset requirement and an income requirement. And if they are in a situation where their assets, you're already meeting the requirement, meaning you have no assets left over. However, that's a different discussion. But if you had an income of, like we said before, of $3,500 or $4,000, but it's still not enough to cover the need for care, you're kind of stuck in that middle no man's land, purgatory, if you will, where you've got a decent amount of income, but not enough income to get your care. So therefore, you need to somehow create this entity that gets you to the point where now you can qualify under the 2349.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can't even clarify that any better. I think you're right on with that. Just
Well,
remember there's an asset
I,
rule and an income rule.
I'm looking for a job,
What do you
so
say?
if you want to, I'm just. Well, no, that's great
Right.
though, because I think that's a part that I think we all forget is that there are situations where people have really high pensions, let's say, plus Social Security, whether it's a state teacher or something, where they have really good income or really good income, but maybe lower assets. Whereas somebody else, they may not have had a pension, they might only have Social Security and they have more assets. But if you're in that situation where you have high income, you need to consider pre-planning, is that income high enough to satisfy what you might need for healthcare? And if you want private healthcare, you might want to consider long-term care or private pay through some of that income that you have. Otherwise, you're going to have to satisfy it somehow. And this is something they may need to consider. But mostly, where I would imagine this would happen more often is somebody has maybe a really good Social Security or a small pension, they ran out of assets and they're barely above this 2349 and they can't qualify. So even if you're $10 over, do you have to set up this trust even if you're $10 over?
Yeah, even if you're $1 over, it's got to be set up. And, you know, it's more than what the nursing home costs. Of course, you have no need for Medicaid, so this wouldn't be an issue. But like you said, Jay, typically comes up for the people that have a Social Security plus pension, and it's 3,000, 700. It's typically really close, but the law sets these numbers, and we just have to follow. We have to make sure that it's set up at the time, at least at the time we're applying, so that we don't risk being ineligible when we really need the money, when all our savings are gone. So that's one little tip I have is, if you see this coming for you, for a loved one in the next few years or something, maybe just set up the legal document, the trust document, have that all in place. Trust bank account yet, but have the documents all signed so that whenever this actually needs to start running, which is Medicaid application is pending, then that trustee can go out, open up the bank account, and then we can start running money through it without having to worry about getting the person that's applying to sign these documents all in a rush.
So let's say we get this all set up. What does the trustee have to do after it's all set up?
Well, yeah, the big thing is they're going to have to go to a bank and open up an account. And so typically they'll take a copy of the trust. There's a little bank form that is completed, and then the bank sends it to the Medicaid department because they track these accounts. They're very serious. They make absolutely certain they're set. And then once that account is set up, then once it starts running, like I said, we have to start making monthly transfers in and monthly payments out. And so after it's set up, depending on the bank you use, I find it might be really convenient if I have the $3,000 of monthly income and I know I need to get below 2349, the Medicaid applicant, can just set up an automatic online bank transfer on whatever it is, the 10th of each month, from my account to the QIT account. And then that trustee of the QIT account could set up online transfer and payment from the QIT account to the nursing home every month. So I might have 1,000 going from my account to the QIT and $1,000 payment every month from the QIT to the nursing home. And that puts it pretty much on autopilot. Although, of course, you really check every month to make sure those transfers and payments are happening, because if you miss one, well, then you're ineligible for that month, which could be a big financial impact if Medicaid is normally paying, 5,000 of the 9,000 the premium or payment at that nursing home. So make sure that it's running correctly if you do set it up to be automated.
Well, it's interesting because this is obviously a practice that helps people who are relatively impoverished, but they need that government support for the long-term care. But it's a process that people need to consider, and it's just an administrative way that you can make sure that these plans are satisfying those rules, correct? And it's just something that people need to be aware of. And if they're going to consider Medicaid, you got to be a little bit ahead of the game. Otherwise, you're going to be surprised on some of these things.
Right. The real reason I just wanted to talk about this is not so people really are aware of the detail. It's just to avoid somebody being surprised if they or a loved one are applying for Medicaid. My hope is just that the attendees will remember, oh man, Aunt Sally, she's applying for Medicaid. I remember that if the income is over a certain limit, there needs to be this trust. Remember what that amount is, but let's just look into that. We don't want to make sure that that ball is dropped and it causes a problem. So just one of those things to put in the back of your mind. Not only is there an asset test, but if income's over a certain limit, remember, we need this qualified income trust to be eligible.
Well, this is really interesting. Really appreciate you bringing this out to the forefront for the listeners today. If there's, I don't see any questions. So, is there anything that you want to, say to kind of wrap this up, kind of bring it all together in a nice, simple, you kind of did right there, but anything else you'd like to say? And definitely appreciate you sharing this information today.
Well, you're welcome. There's probably not too much to mention to recap, but just remember, can cause a problem for Medicaid. Make sure that you either read up on it or remember to reach out to some sort of elder law attorney that handles these sorts of issues and can make sure there's no problems and everything runs smooth. But other than that, I just wanted to make you aware of what a qualified income trust is, and just stick that in the back of your mind as an issue to look into or check off before someone applies for Medicaid. That's really excellent. All I have for now, Jay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Russ. This is great information. If anybody has any, I think, we're still sharing your information. So if anybody has any questions, concerns, they'd like to reach out to Russ directly with any, clarification. I know, Russ, you do this quite a bit, and this is something that you're an expert at. And so thank you for sharing your insight. And so everybody have a great holiday weekend coming up, Russ, you too. And appreciate your time. And we'll see everybody next week, not on Monday, but on Tuesday. And we'll see everybody next week.